Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you guys are watching. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you could hit that like button, comment if you are there, questions for my guest today. I'm so happy to share them with her, as I'm sure that a lot of you may know others that are going on a similar journey. My guest today is Marcy Hopkins. She is here to share about her journey through alcoholism, child abuse, trauma, and her journey to sobriety. She actually celebrates 10 years of sobriety with us today. So I am so blessed, so honored to have her here. I'm going to bring her in. Thank you, Virginia Alexander, for being here. Good morning. And then again, if you could share, I so would appreciate it. You never know who needs to hear this story. One moment as I go and grab our guest. Thank you so much. Hello, Pretty and Pooch. How are you? Welcome in. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All right, I'm going to grab Marcy. We are going to get started. We have a lot to talk about. Also, pardon my voice. I don't know what's going on, but it's a little bit raspy this morning. And I'm going to be clearing it a bit. So I appreciate your grace. All right, there she is. Hello, Marcy. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me and allowing us to have this open and honest conversation on your platform.
Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and get started, Marcy. I have done some research and heard your incredible journey, but before the journey and the greatness, there's a lot of darkness and a lot of struggle, a lot of abuse. And I want us to start with when you were a child, what your childhood was like, what your parents were like growing up, and what kind of kiddo were you, if you know? I know that a lot of people, including myself, I'm not really sure what kind of kiddo I was because I was so caught up in the chaos and the drama that I was scared to death growing up to be anything but trying to be a perfect kid to avoid any kind of beatings or abuse. So for a long time, I didn't know what kind of child I was. But I want to ask you and start there, what kind of childhood you had, what kind of parents that you had, and what kind of kiddo were you?
Well, first off, I know that I was a child that all I wanted to do was love, show love, and be loved. I was just filled with this love that I just wanted to give. And it and I was born out of wedlock. My mother was 19. I was an accident. I was an oops. So I know it was very difficult for my mother and my father. But my mother did the best that she could. She had me, and my grandparents stepped in, my aunts and uncles. So I did feel that I was very surrounded by love.
Mm.
And I was going back and forth between my grandparents and my mother. So, but where everything shifted for me was when I was 6 years old. And this is where I start my book, Chaos to Clarity. I go very into depth about this story. I literally take you there. My mother was dating someone, and we would stay at his house a lot. And they were partiers, right? I mean, this is what they did. My mother was an alcoholic, and so they would party all night, and I would be in their guest room, and I would wake up very early, which they would sleep in. So I this one particular morning when I was 6 years old, I was looking around this room and trying to find something to entertain myself with. And I found this Tootsie Roll can, and I thought it was filled with candy. But it ended up being a bank, and it was filled with all these coins. At that time, I didn't really know the value of money, but I did know that silver money was more than the bronze money at that
Mhm.
time, right? So I ended up deciding to take the silver coins, thinking, oh, like now I have this money to buy candy or do what I want to do with it, right?
Mhm.
And so my mom's boyfriend came in, and the irony of this story is that he went to grab that bank and was going to gift that to me. But he realized that the bank was light, and he asked me what had happened, and I, of course, acted like I had no idea. I was full of fear of what was going to happen. I knew what I did was wrong,
Mm.
and he noticed that the money was gone. I'd said his roommate must have taken it, and he did not believe me, and he grabbed me and took me down the hall where my mother was in bed, and proceeded to beat me in front of her while she was just lying there, and I just wanted to be saved by my mother, of course. And after the beating occurred, we were going to my grandparents for a family party. And she told me that what I had done was wrong, that I couldn't tell my grandparents. And so I had to now shove this down while I was black and blue on the backside and also bruised emotionally from what had just occurred. So we go to my grandparents, and there were some other things that happened, and I was just triggered and went into this emotional rage. And my grandmother took me into the laundry room, and I proceeded to show her my backside, which was black and blue. And they ended up kicking my mom and her boyfriend out of the house. And I stayed with my grandparents, and my grandmother ended up telling me that I could stay with them. I could live with them. So now at 6 years old, I'm having to make this huge decision to not be with my mother and stay with my grandparents or go back with my mom. And at that time, I didn't feel safe with my mother. So I made the big decision to stay with my grandparents. Now, I am grateful that I was with them from 6 to 12 because
Mhm.
those were very formative years. And my grandmother has always been my rock. She was the one solid person in my life, that did all the things that you would expect as a parent to do.
Mhm.
And but my grandfather did. I really believe my grandfather was bipolar. He also was a huge drinker, and so he would go into these fits of rage. So there was a lot of fear of living in that home.
Mhm.
Um, so it ends up taking a real toll on the person that you become. You just become this person that is trying to survive and
Mhm.
pretend that these things aren't happening in your home when you're outside, obviously going to school and in public, right? But I had no drive in school. I was moving every 2 years. So people became expendable to me because I never really connected with people. I did
Mm.
have some friends, and I would make friends. I was an outgoing person, but I just learned that you could replace people. And and then I had also myself, I had a lot of pain and rage myself, and always this hope that I would be back with my mother at some point. And there was a lot of abandonment because my father was never around. I remember just crying, like, why would my father not ever want to talk to me? When I told my mother that I was going to stay with my grandparents, basically in my small little brain, she's choosing her party lifestyle and this man over me.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot that I had to deal with at a very, very young age. Um, at 12 years old, my mother ended up meeting this gentleman. His name was Richard. And they ended up getting engaged. Now, I think this guy is our knight in shining armor. He's going to make this beautiful life for my mother and myself. I get to go live with them, and I'm beyond ecstatic about
Mhm.
this. And they did have the wedding at my grandparents' home. Now, that was the first time that I drank. Again, I'm 12 years old. I ended up drinking at this celebration. And I woke up the next day and I really didn't get in trouble. I don't remember any repercussion from that experience.
Mm.
But I will tell you, again, my mother drank all the time. That was just what she did every single day. I mean, when I would go and stay with her and her boyfriend, prior to her getting engaged to this gentleman, I had a lot of fear staying at that house, so I couldn't sleep, and she started giving me, like, half a sleeping pill. Um, and then she would also, if I remember vividly, like, having a stomach ache, and I was, like, 8 years old, and I had a lot of stomach problems, and in retrospect, I probably had all these stomach problems because of what was going on in my life,
Mhm.
but she would say, "Oh, here, have some of my margarita. It always helps me go to the bathroom." Like, I'm 8 years old. So, it was very normalized for me, very normalized. So, this occurs, we end up moving in, they get married, I move in with them, and he's got some money, he owns his own company, and, I mean, now I'm like, "Wow," like, we're living in the rich part of Houston,
Mm.
Texas, and I just, like, envision, like, this beautiful, beautiful life I'm going to have, and for about 6 months, it was amazing. This man was so good to me, and, like, I'm finally gonna have this dad, and,
Mhm.
um, but then at about 6 months in, sexual abuse started. He took me to this movie, Porky's, which is, I'm sitting there thinking that he's so cool, and I don't know if you recall this movie, but it's
Mhm.
not a movie that a 12-year-old should have been going to. Very inappropriate movie. And he had his arm around me, and again, I'm 12, so I'm like this, small girl, and he's like 6'2", big, persona, and he had his arm around me, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I was the luckiest girl in the world. Like, he's so cool, he took me to this movie. I finally got this dad and this life that I've been dreaming about,
Mhm.
and he had his arm around me and his hand on my knee, and I'm telling you, within that same moment, he started moving his hand down my leg. And I am now pushing him as hard as I can. And he is, I'm resisting him, and he is continuing to try to push his hand down my leg. Now I freeze for a moment, then I jump up and I run out of the movie theater. And I'm crying. I don't know what to do. I
Mhm.
mean, like, what am I doing? Right. And so at that time, I wanted to go on this trip that the school was putting on, my new school was putting on, and I really wanted to go. And they were telling me they didn't have the money to do it. Well, of course, just like any abuser, he then now says, "Remember that trip you wanted to go on? I'm let's I'm going to let you go on that trip." So now it's the gifts, right? So you've got the secret, you've got the abuse, and now we're, don't tell your mom, don't tell anyone. I'm going to do this for you. And so that's where that abuse started.
My gosh,
And
Marcy, I'm sorry, I'm gonna
yes,
interrupt you, but,
yeah,
the grooming,
yeah,
and as a child, you're a child, and not have anybody to tell, your own
hmm
mother, um, at such a young age, like, did you have anybody to tell? I mean,
yeah. No,
he's
I didn't have
rubbing his
anyone to
hands up
tell.
your leg?
Yeah, and it's like, you talk about that the grooming, and there was, in retrospect, now that I know what grooming is, I mean, that's exactly what he was doing. Here's this young, vulnerable girl, and all I wanted to do was be loved, right? I wanted this father figure,
Mhm.
and he took advantage of that for sure. And what's interesting is that, I don't know, like, is there a misinterpretation of me showing this love, right? You
Mm.
question, like, was there something that I did that gave him this signal, right? And that's what you do to yourself, right? You take this blame on as if you've done something. Now, I knew that there was a lot of inappropriate of course, he said it would never happen again. But then there were so many inappropriate things he would say to me. Um, I knew with all my heart that he was doing something to me in my sleep. There
Mm.
was no doubt in my mind. But I was a very, very deep sleeper, and I didn't know 100%. And so I went on this trip that I told you about to Europe. And when I came home, uh, Richard and my mom picked me up, and they were like, "We have an incredible surprise for you. We're actually going to go to Hong Kong and Singapore now." Now, remember, I come from this little life from Texas, and I've never gone anywhere. And so now I've gone to Europe, and now I'm going to get to go to Hong Kong and Singapore. And I think I've hit the jackpot. So we go to Hong Kong and Singapore. And mind you, at this time, I might have been just turning 13 because it was in the summer. And my birthday's in July. And while we're on this trip, they're allowing me to drink. Like, we're in Singapore. I remember drinking the Singapore Sling. I remember drinking other things and being allowed to drink at 13 years old with them. Now, there was an instance where we were out at the pool in Hong Kong, and we were going to go to dinner. And so Richard wanted to go up to the room. My mother wanted to stay by the pool. There were some people that we knew there. And so I go up and I get in the shower. Now, the shower was like this glass enclosure, and the door was right in front of it. And you know how those slats that go up on a door, and you can actually, if you scoot down, you
Mhm.
can look under them. Well, I look over and I see this figure, and my stepfather is trying to look at me in the shower. And I I jump out. I'm again feel so alone. I'm crying, and you don't know what to do, right? It's not like this young girl is going to go out there and confront this big man that he's done this.
Mm.
So I wait for him to leave. I finish my shower, and now I'm trying to get dressed. So the only thing I had control of at that time, and then I brought it into my adulthood, was how I looked on the outside. So trying to perfect how I looked on the outside was very important to me
Mhm.
because the inside was crisis mode and chaos. So if I had control of what I look like on the outside, there was some comfort in that.
Mhm.
So I was getting dressed, and my mom comes in, and now Richard is saying that he wants us to leave. And so my mom comes in and tells me that we're going to leave, and I'm like, of course, I'm lashing out at this time, right? Because now I'm lashing out. I didn't want to. I was failing in school. I didn't want to live, and it was horrible, horrible time. So my mother says, "Well, we'll go find a place. We'll get your hair blown out." And so I'm like, "Okay." And so we leave, and of course we can't find any place, and I'm getting angrier and angrier, right? Because now this anger is coming out, and it's directed at my mother.
Mhm.
And so we get in this huge fight. I just remember there was this waterway, and there's these, you can walk over this water in this
Mhm.
hotel, and we're screaming at each other. And she grabs my neck and she's strangling me. And I scream out that I can't believe she's doing this to me and protecting a man that is sexually abusing her child.
Mhm.
That's how I told her. And so she stops, and I tell her, I swear that things are happening to me in my sleep. I told her about the other occurrences that had happened. And really, the biggest memory from that was I can't leave right now, and to wear more clothes when I sleep. And so that's what I did. I would wear full on pajamas. I'd wear a robe every night, and went back, acted like nothing was happening, except for the fact that I was failing out of school, starting to act out, drinking on the weekends. becoming promiscuous because I thought my idea of love and attention was very skewed from
Mhm.
boys, because I thought that all that did matter was what I could give sexually and also what I looked like on the outside. And so life was really, really hard, and I was getting grounded for long periods of time because my grades were so bad. And so now I'm like stuck in this house that I don't feel safe in. Well, it ended up that my mother would walk the dog, and when she would walk the dog, I found out that's when he would come into my room.
Mm.
And I woke up and he had his hand in between my legs. And so, of course, everything was validated at that moment. I knew that it was happening,
Mhm.
and I just froze. I rolled over. I didn't say anything. Like I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so the next day I went to school. I mean, I'm at a rock bottom at this point. And I got home and my mother was there and she could tell that something was very wrong with me. And I shared with her. She called a hotline trying to get some support and help. And here I finally think something's going to happen. We're going to get out of this home.
Mhm.
And Richard came home, could see that something was going on. And she went in the bedroom with him, told him, and I could hear him say that she wanted it. She knew what was happening and she wanted it. And I screamed out that I never wanted it. And you know what? My mom didn't leave. And we ended up moving to the Woodlands, Texas. So we moved to a bigger home with a promise that it would never happen again. And I don't remember a lot of those years when we were in the Woodlands. I remember being at school. I remember trying to be accepted in the school, and I had transitioned. You know, I kind of had that blossoming moment right before 10th grade is when we moved there, and so boys were really interested in me, and so I took advantage of that. I took advantage of that, and I ended up having a boyfriend, and I didn't stay at my house a lot. And I really don't remember my time at the house. I remember the time in school, just trying to make it through school, and just having a boyfriend was all that mattered. And jealousy was the jealousy and rage that was inside of me was
Mm.
I mean, unfathomable, really, really.
And how old were you when you were living with your boyfriend?
So I was probably a junior in high school.
Junior high
So,
school. And I ask
mhm,
that because I know, so I mentor a lot of young girls, and your story is such it's identical to the emotions that young ladies, young girls, they bottle up. I mean, those very impressionable years that you're growing up and you don't have anybody to go to. You tell your mom, um, the one person that you hope and pray is going to protect you in all of this. And then they wind up staying with the abuser, and you're putting multiple clothes on, a robe, and that's devastating. That is so devastating, Marcy. It breaks my heart to think that you as a child are trying to protect yourself by
mhm,
putting layers of clothing on, and you go to your mother, and your mother is strangling you as you are telling her that you're being abused. I can't even imagine the
yeah,
trauma
mm,
that you grew up in, um, the trauma that was sort of resonated within yourself as you're growing and developing and becoming and hiding, and the shame and possibly the guilt. I know a lot of young ladies feel guilty that, like
a
you
lot of
said,
guilt,
was it
yeah,
something that I did? Did
mhm,
I do something to make him think I wanted this? And um, So you're in and out of the house. You're living with your boyfriend. This
Mhm.
anger is starting to come up. You're becoming a bit promiscuous. And you're still drinking and
Oh, yeah.
those kind of things.
Blackout weekends, um, for quite some time, and then even with my boyfriend, like, it was okay to drink at his house, like, with his mother. She was a single mom, and, yeah, so it was very really interesting, just to think that, it was very accepted. It was very accepted to be able to drink, and my mother and stepdad were full-on alcoholics,
Mm,
and the only reason she ended up leaving, she left the summer before my senior year, is because the abuse towards her got so bad.
mm,
And I think he was going bankrupt. The drinking was at an all-time high for the both of them. And and so my mother finally went through a divorce. And I just remember begging her not to move again because, mind you, again, I'd move schools like every 2 years. So I was like, now my senior year of high school. And I was like, please, please, can we stay in the Woodlands? So then we bought a small home and we stayed there. But now what's happening is that the roles are switching where I am taking on the
mm,
role of a mother, because my mother is now going through that transitional stage where the drinking is off the charts. I'm scared to death she's going to kill herself drinking and driving all the time.
mm,
She's working in restaurants. Like, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And she would bring home young men. I mean, I just remember like seeing a jacket out on the furniture and going to bed and being like, God, who's here now? It was bad. Yeah.
And so, yes, as you guys are switching roles. Your
Mhm.
mother is the alcoholic. Um, it's getting worse. I can't even
Mhm.
imagine, young men of all ages, I guess,
Yep.
coming in and out of your house, what that is doing to you. And and so as your mother is worsening, the roles are reversing. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, are you still drinking? Are you still
Oh, yeah,
abusing
yeah. I mean,
alcohol? Mhm.
still I didn't drink during the week, it wasn't like that, but I was drinking when we would go out on the weekends. It was definitely my time to forget. It would be my time to drink, and the other thing that happened for me was I became this person that even if I was in a relationship, I was always looking outside of, the relationship, meaning getting attention from guy like, I would target a guy,
Mhm.
and then I would do everything I could to make that guy want me,
Mm,
because somehow I felt like that was power, and I was going to get the person that I wanted.
mm,
And then if the person I was with wasn't treating me how I wanted them to, I would go outside of the relationship and it would be like, "Well, I'm gonna hurt you before you hurt me." And so
mm,
it was so dysfunctional. I mean, and again, I mean, I said that I had blossomed and I had attention from guys, so it was like that's all that was important to me. Like, I didn't even know how to have real friendships with girls.
mhm,
And it was took me a long time into my adulthood to even discover trusting girls, wanting to be close to girls, and not feeling that my only validation was by a man wanting me and being in a relationship, but still trying to hold the power. I mean, it was like the fighting was always off the charts, very abusive mentally, physically, and always drinking was a high, high part of the relationship between the guy and me.
mm.
Mhm.
And so it's very interesting that, uh, the abuser and the trauma that comes from that abuse, even as much as obviously is unwanted. I mean, you don't um first of all deserve to be sexually abused, molested. But it's interesting that um that was kind of the promiscuity is
Yeah.
something that you looked for as a young girl, and I know young girls who have followed the same path. And my
Mhm.
question to you is, why do you think that is? If it's something that is so unwanted
Yeah.
and so obviously undeserved, uh, sexual abuse as a child, as a woman, at any age, why do you think that that is the go-to for young women?
Well, because there's a few things. There's one, you believe that is the only way you're loved. It
Mm,
is by um, being desired and wanted.
mm,
So you set yourself up in ways that you will have guys want you.
mhm,
And and then you think if the guy wants you and then maybe you are sexual in some way, that they're going to want to stay with you.
mm, mhm,
So that's a big part of it. The other side of it is in a way of power. So you think that now no one's going to take this from me. I have the choice if you are going to have a part of me or not.
mm.
And so that's a big part of it also.
Most definitely. And I see in the comments, Julie says the attention seeking is all a part of the abuse cycle, that she
Mhm.
understands that. She also appreciates your incredible strength for speaking on your truth. And just as I had discussed with you earlier, that I've had a lot of men come on and share their journeys with alcoholism and the traumas that they are still, as adult men, are working through, and
Yeah.
can see um, themselves as their dad, that
Mhm.
they're like, I'm bound to determine I'm not going to be like my dad. And you had mentioned in an interview that you had walked past, I don't know if it was a mirror or a window, but when you
It
looked
was a
into
window.
it,
Yeah,
that
and I
you
saw my
thought it
mom.
was your mom.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, and I hopped off the story, but
No, no, it's it's just so disruptive, and,
mm,
there's 1 in 3 women, girls, that are sexually abused.
mhm,
There's, over almost 50 million people in the United States alone that are suffering with substance use disorder.
mhm,
It was never accepted for women to drink. We carry so much shame. Like, we could drink, but, we have our 1 glass of wine, and, like, it was so accepted for men, and I think that for the longest time, we've had to hide,
mhm,
any of our struggles, any of our abuse, and just accept it in a way. And then as you become, um, a woman, a mother, there's just you can't admit it because it's like you're so judged. Like, you have these children, how could you drink? Well, the thing is that it is a disease. Here
mhm,
I come from a home with many alcoholics, and so it is genetic.
mhm,
It was my way, that I learned, one, to cope
mhm,
and numb, and then it also worked for me
mhm,
until it didn't. And you find ways to navigate it, so you can hopefully be successful in life. And I was like, believe it or not, like I was. uh, I had a very high role in television.
mhm,
I ended up with one of the executives in television, married. I had 2 children. I lived a beautiful life, but behind closed doors, I mean, it was not beautiful. I mean, I was struggling constantly, and that, um until there was the breaking point for me, and I almost lost everything,
What was
and
what was your breaking point?
um, well, the final breaking point. So I got in front of the camera. I've always worked in television,
Mhm.
and ultimately I ended up in LA with work through Fox Cable Group, and I was the director of on-air promotions. So again, I don't know how I ended up doing all the things that I did. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess, you know, my boss would say I have this fire in the belly that you can't teach. I just think that there's just this survival inside of me.
Mhm.
And I was never wanting to be like my mother. And I always was like, I am going to be something in this life. And I
Mm.
just really, really believed that, even though there was so many struggles in my life. But so I did very well. We ended up getting married. We were in LA. We moved to New Jersey. Now, in my 40s, I decided to go after this lifelong dream of getting in front of the camera. And that's where just things were falling into line. I decided to be a commercial print model. Then that moved into acting, then indie film acting. But during this time, all of the things that I was pushing down, those insecurities,
Mm.
no self confidence, feeling less than, all came to the surface because now I'm in this industry where I'm being judged all the time, right? You're going for these auditions. I was so fearful in those auditions. Was I going to get the job? You know, it's like going for an interview all the time, acting out,
Mm.
and are you going to get the job all the time?
Mhm.
And then on top of it, with my children, I didn't want anyone else to raise my children. I never wanted them to feel the abandonment that I felt. So I was an overly protective, loving mother. So,
Mhm.
you know, and so that was very hard for me to navigate. So what did I turn to? I turned to what I called my liquid courage. So I started drinking where it used to be just, the 5 o'clock start, started becoming before auditions. If I'd go into the city to audition, I'd go to lunch afterwards and started drinking. So my drinking really began to escalate, and that slippery slope began
Mm.
for me. And so my last day of drinking, and through that time, you have to understand, and there's a lot of women out there that are like this. Um, it was not that I was blacking out every night. I was not giving attention to my kids. There was I had friends. I was active in the community. Yeah, I was doing all the things, being there for my kids in school. But it's becomes very normalized for a lot of women out there to have that bottle of wine at night and
Mhm.
think that that is normal, or have the mom culture where we are encouraging that let's get together, have the play date, have the wine, right? You're glamorizing that time together and drinking together.
Mhm.
And while for some, they can manage it, they can handle it, but it becomes this what's called a slippery slope to where you then now your body absolutely needs that alcohol, right?
Mhm.
It changes your brain, it changes your body, the chemicals in your body. There are so many things that have happened while you're drinking this alcohol. I mean, it is a drug. It's toxic to your
Yes.
body, right?
Mhm.
And also that wiring of your brain where whether you've gone through trauma, whether you've gone through a death, whether you've gone through, divorce, these things also escalate drinking for people because they don't know, especially women, because this is how we cope. So we cope silently in our homes,
Mhm.
right? So where nobody knows the this this darkness that we're going
Yeah.
through, and we're so afraid to share. We're so
Mhm.
afraid to share or get the help that we need because we're so afraid we're going to lose our kids. So anyway, during that time, the drinking. And so my last day of drinking was October 3rd, 2015. I had gone for a modeling gig, had my thermos of wine, and it was modeling clothing at a department store.
Mhm.
Well, I ended up at the wrong mall. And the irony of that day is when I was going up the escalator to do the show, I kept telling myself this internal conversation, Marcy, you don't need the wine. You can do this on your own. And I convinced myself I didn't need it. I was so proud of myself. Then I find out I'm at the wrong mall. Now you have to realize also you're in a fog all the time. So I'm not really paying attention to the emails that my agent's sending me and where I really need to go, right? So I had gotten it all wrong. I'm at the wrong mall. So what do? I jump in my car, open my thermos, and I start drinking and driving as fast as I can to get to my gig on time. It it's really unbelievable where you start convincing yourself that you can drink and drive and nothing's going to happen. Because for so many years, I was terrified of it. But
Right.
then slowly I started getting more comfortable and I feel like I'm invincible. Like I'm not nothing's gonna happen to me. So I make it to my gig. Of course, I think I do really well, but in retrospect, I think they never called me back. So they obviously, knew something happened there. But I also did quit modeling after that day because I got a DUI. I went out with a girlfriend after. I'd already had half a bottle of wine. I'm barely eating because I'm trying to stay thin. And
Mhm.
it just like we went to lunch after. I had a martini, and then I think I had a glass of wine, and then she's like, remember, I'm barely eating. I think I've had like half a fish that day at this
Mm.
point, and then we end up going to somewhere else, and I'm sitting at the bar, and I had another glass of wine, and the last thing I remember is saying to my friend, I have to eat something because at this point, I feel like I'm about to pass out.
Mhm.
So I guess she went to the bathroom and I went into a blackout and I went to my car and started driving home. Now, at this point, I want to preface that I had only had a handful of blackouts. So I'm at that stage where it's just starting for me that I am going into blackouts because there's a lot of women out there that every night that they're falling asleep on the couch, right? They're not mothering because they're drinking the wine and passing out. And I
Mhm.
wasn't doing that. But I'm getting to this place, right? So I had my blackout and I'm driving. I do get to the town where I'm living and I guess I was driving erratically and somebody called me in. And honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So
Mhm.
I I was I was parked in someone's front yard and the cop found me. And that's where it all started. I ended up getting arrested for DUI, and they were very kind to me. It was not a horrible process. So I'm very grateful for that. Uh, my husband came to pick me up, which in my mind, I was calling my girlfriend I drank with all the time and asking her to come get me, thinking somehow I am going to manage hiding this, right? So still the, the oh my God, the craziness in your head, right? So anyway, I went to bed a victim because I very much was a victim. I lived as a victim. All these things happened to me because of somebody else. Like my husband was around more. If he was a better husband, these things
Mhm.
would not be happening. But I woke up that next day, October 4th, 2015, and God stepped in and I surrendered. And I knew at that point that I really was an alcoholic. I
Mm.
knew that I had to make a change. And I had tried to quit drinking before, but this time was different. This time I knew I was ready to do whatever it took.
Mm.
And I went downstairs. I sat down with my husband, which at this point, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to lose everything because he
Mhm.
could have just at that point said, I'm done. I'm done. But I told him I'm an alcoholic. I need help. And he embraced me. And it was the first time I felt that love that I'd always been
Mm.
looking for. It was so beautiful. It was like the weight of the world came off my shoulders. I had God, I had my husband, I had that love that I'd always been seeking,
Mhm.
and everything changed. And that's what happens. It's like this, you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready. And there's a shift that happens. And for me, God and gratitude were everything.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, that's where the transformation begins, is when
Mhm.
you finally surrender. You have to be ready. You can't, as a parent of a child that I lost, you can't love an addiction out of someone.
No.
They have to be ready. And the transformation does begin when you do truly surrender and you have God and your loved ones. And I can only imagine, I can almost feel when you said that your husband embraced you,
Yeah.
and you're being able to feel that love that you have been longing for and
Mm.
looking for
Yeah.
forever, and finally being able
Forever.
to feel
Yeah.
that. Um, and so you finally make that choice
Mhm.
to uh, enter into sobriety. Did you go to recovery, or what did sobriety or
Yeah, for
making?
me, I thankfully didn't have to go. Again, like I said, my drinking was not at a place that I had to go into a recovery center and have a supported detox.
Mhm.
So for me, the 12-step program is what worked. That for me uh, was my savior. And as much therapy as I had gone through and all that I had gone through, that guidance through the 12 steps was where my transformation really happened. And
Mm.
that was where I learned to find God and spirituality in a very different way. That is where I learned to forgive myself and forgive others.
Mhm.
It's where I learned to find gratitude in life and view life in a very, very different way. Find and see my role, because the only thing we can change in this life is ourselves. And the
Mhm.
only thing we have control of is how we react,
Mhm.
respond, and show up. And I used to blame everyone else. I used to need validation from everyone else. So I found that love for myself. So I went within myself instead of going outside of myself. The
Mm.
people pleasing, no boundaries, saying yes to everything, the perfectionism that I lived in, trying to have the acceptance, right, from others. And so there was so much magic. And then also recognizing, like, giving of myself, like how important getting outside of
Mm.
yourself
Mhm.
is life changing.
It is. And, to be able to, I mean, I'm thinking about so many different things. The
Mhm.
men and women that have that rock bottom and that
Yeah.
surrender, and then the opportunity to, yes, choose and do the work um, to become one with that transformation. But I think
Yeah.
about the people, and maybe you can help me and those people that are sitting and thinking, that's not going to happen to me. I
Mhm.
can't do that. Lucky her, lucky Marcy that she's able to think outside
Yeah.
of herself. What about me that I'm sitting here and there's no hope. I
Yeah.
don't have the strength to do that.
Yeah.
And I ask you that kind of as a segue into, you have a book that's coming up or launching in April, I believe. It's Wake Up, You're Not Broken. What to expect the first 30 days of sobriety, an official guide for anyone that is getting ready to begin their journey into
Yeah.
sobriety.
Yeah.
And what do you say to those people that are sitting thinking,
Yeah.
Lucky her. I can't.
Well, first of all, I have been where you are, thinking that I would never give up drinking because drinking was all I knew, right?
Mhm.
I would have chosen to drink it no matter what my husband said, no matter what anyone else said, right? It was just all I knew and all I knew all my life. And so how could I live life without alcohol?
Mm.
Um, and like I said, what happens to a lot of us, we have this internal battle. It's not like just one day you decide, I'm going to stop drinking. It's not like that. It's
Right.
like you start recognizing like how it's affecting your life. So if it's affecting your relationships, if it's affecting how you feel, your health, your sleep, your job, how you are showing up for your kids, like these are all telltale signs that there is a problem. Now, if you were like me, I was looking for all the ways to try to become a normal drinker, get my hands around this without quitting. Because quitting drinking, I couldn't imagine not drinking ever all my life without alcohol after that. Like, are you kidding me? I'm 45,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I looked up therapy, I looked up acupuncture, I looked up hypnosis. I was willing to do whatever it took. And I would stay up overnight, beating myself up for drinking, saying I'm not going to do it the next day, over and over and over, that I was going to show up to life differently.
Mm.
But I will tell you, in those moments, you really feel you're going to do it differently. Then the next day comes, life happens, and you fall right back into it. So you got to make some real strong, heavy decisions to make the change, and you have to be ready. So, with what I share, what does surrender look like? Right? So, a lot of people think that word surrendering is a weakness when it's actually
Mm.
the biggest strength there is. Being vulnerable, how much strength there is in being vulnerable, asking for help. People want to help you. That is your own warped mindset that you have to do it all on your own. People are waiting. They want to desperately help you, right? Then you learn about the science, what's happening in your body. There's many chemical changes in your body. The neuro wiring in your brain from any type of trauma. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there that maybe it's a bad habit and you are at that place where maybe it's going to turn into an addiction.
Mhm.
Alcohol use disorder is a spectrum, right? Just like any type of disease, there's spectrums, right? So you don't have to be the person that's under the bridge. And a lot
Right.
of people think of, when you think about alcoholism or alcohol use disorder, it's the person that's homeless and under the bridge. It is women like you and me sitting in their houses every day struggling with this. Okay. So it's getting through the changing of the neurotransmitters, the neuro wiring, the healing, the triggers, what that means. Triggers, you have to change people, places, and things, what the
Mhm.
cravings are, the spiritual side of things, the science behind it. And I give you also like a blueprint, some journaling, some ways to look at yourself, the affirmations, and the way that we speak to yourself ourselves, right,
Mm.
is
Mhm.
so brutal. And how can we change that? And it doesn't happen overnight. None of these things happen overnight. The practice of gratitude. When we change to a place of living in gratitude, and believe me, you may be sitting in an apartment that is not what you want, right?
Mm.
Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you've lost your kids. Maybe you are sitting in an apartment and you're like, I have nothing, but you do have something. And you do have the ability to start small and start seeing these little things of gratitude, and that you shift the way that you look at life and that you respond to life. And believe it or not, things get better and better. And we start to attract these beautiful things in our lives. And I know people see me now, 10 and a half years sober. Look at her. She's got all these things, the talk show, the books, and being in public and being on stages. I couldn't even talk in a meeting. I had absolutely no self-confidence. Remember, I had to drink to get in front of people.
Mm.
And now I openly share my story, and that vulnerability is my superpower today.
Mm.
So I'm telling you, it's baby steps. It's action every single day. I still connect to God every day. I still show my gratitude every day. And I know that a lot of people struggle. Like, a lot of people go into the 12-step program or try to get help, but they don't do the work to heal, right? That is a symptom. You are masking something with an alcohol, a drug, whatever it is. It could be eating. It could be scrolling on social media all the time. There's so many things that we do to mask the deep pain that's inside of us. And it's healing that. It is
It
healing that.
is. It is such a, it is a lot of hard work. It is a
It
lot
is.
of healing. I mean, it is a journey. That's why they call it a journey, right?
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
find out identify the problem, take those baby steps. If you fall, it's okay. You can get back
It's okay.
up.
Be kind. Yeah. Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Be kind to yourself. You're doing the work. You're
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
And boy, your life will change so much after you
Yeah.
have completed that. And it is still a daily choice. It is a daily
It is a daily
mindset,
choice.
daily
Yep.
focus shift.
I'm going to tell you, I mean, just the other day, I was feeling very down, going through some struggles with my son, trying to figure out, am I on the right path? Am I
Mm.
doing enough? Like, just so down on myself, right? Especially with a new year, a lot of us do that. And there was a time I would have just drank, felt sorry for myself. But I was able to recognize, one, what I was doing, right? The spiral that I was going in. Then make the choice. I made a choice. I went to the church, which you don't have to go to church and pray, but I have some solace in that. So I did that. I meditated. I did the things that I needed to do to get me out of that funk
Mm.
and to wake up the next day, the new day, with a better mindset around what was happening, right? We're all
Thank
gonna
you for
have it.
sharing that. That
Yeah,
is so huge. I mean,
yeah,
people that are in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years that have been through that trauma, who have had that chemical imbalance, who have I really believe growing up and a lot of that being instilled in us, you're growing up around it, you are
mhm,
traumatized. Excuse me, there are genetics, there are addictive personalities, and you have done the work, but there are still those days when you are feeling down in the dumps and you think, and then you have
yeah,
to shift your
yeah,
mindset. And that's so real, raw, and transparent, Marcy. And I so
mhm,
appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people think, well, I'm already thinking this way. I could probably have one drink. I mean, one
yeah,
sip. I've done
yeah,
10 years. I've done 20 years. One sip's not gonna change anything. I'm probably good
mhm,
to go. And that is setting yourself up for failure because you're gonna head right back down that path. And so to
yeah,
be able to say, I was kind of down, I was, in this funk and life is hard. It's hard to be a parent. It's hard to
yeah,
be a working woman. It is hard to be a wife. It is hard to be all these things that we are labeled with and grateful for. But
Mhm.
with those things comes obviously difficulties. I mean, there are
Yeah,
trying days in life. It's life. But
it's
to
life.
share that you had to, really think and reshift your focus is so needed. People need to hear that.
Yeah, and it's possible. You're not alone, and there really is so much hope and help out there. And listen, for the 12 steps, that worked for me. But there's so many other options out there now, and that's another thing I share. It's not a cutter healing journey. Everyone's
Right.
different. What
Mhm.
works for other people, um, and again, maybe you're just starting down a darker path, and you could be a part of a support group with women. There's so many support groups out there, um, but I just want people to know that you can't change without the the knowledge of how to change
Mm,
and uh, doing the work. Nothing, this is not easy. This is not easy, and I'm not going to pretend it is. There
mhm,
is medications out there that are helping people now with the extreme cravings. Like my mother was never able to beat her addiction. We had a
mm,
long, lifelong road with that. And even as a daughter of an alcoholic myself, I carried a lot of pain because I wanted my mom to have this gift that I had learned. And
mm,
you can only do so much. If you have somebody out there suffering, just know you are not responsible for their healing.
mm.
But don't come at them in a way that puts them on the defense, because we will drink at you. We will do the things because now we're angry and upset. And a lot of times it's because we're angry with ourselves, but we're blaming it on you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, one that I ask all of my guests, and then I want to kind of quickly wrap up and chat
Yeah.
about how people can get your books. We do have links to your website, your Instagram. Marcy has books. Marcy is a three-time Telly Award winning weekly talk show host of Wake Up with Marcy. She also has Wake Up with Marcy podcast. She has a book that is out, and obviously she's an accomplished author. The book is Chaos to Clarity, and again, launching the book that is going to help kind of be a guide for days of sobriety. So I want to ask you this a question that I ask every single guest.
Mhm.
And as you are thinking about where you came from as a child, that
Mhm.
6-year-old child, that little girl who had to make an adult decision on, am I going to stay with my mother? Am I going to stay with my grandparents? You lived a life of abuse, sexual abuse as a child, um, drinking at a young age, given medication by your own mother,
Mhm.
them allowing you to drink and party and get drunk. You go into high school, and there is this road to promiscuity because that is the way that you felt loved as a young child. You're seeking, searching for love, and then you move into sobriety, and you are a talk show host. You are a speaker now. You are a life coach. You've written books, and you are sharing your story with such grace and beauty after everything that you have been through, Marcy, everything as a
Mhm.
child to now. Who would you say Marcy is today? Who is Marcy Hopkins today? Who are you? Who are you
Mhm.
today?
Mm. Well, first and foremost, I am a proud mother. I am a sober woman. I am a blessed wife. I have a beautiful husband that I thought at one time that I didn't want to be with. And we have an amazing, amazing relationship today. I am someone that knows how important it is to spread the message and bash the stigma around alcohol use disorder. And that is my mission, to help others out there to know that they are not alone, that there is help available. And my mission has become very clear from my higher power. And it's hard for me a lot of times, but I am a woman that is on a path to helping as many people as I can to know that a beautiful, joyful, abundant life is possible. And I'm going to teach you how.
I love it. You are the epitome of hope. You are, Marcy. And I am so honored and grateful that you have made this your mission, not just coming on to my podcast, which I am very blessed and honored that you did. But the fact that you are on this mission, this global mission to encourage others to take that step, take that first step. It might be a little step, and they may be baby steps for a while.
Yeah.
To take that step to living a life of beauty, of happiness. It's not easy. It can be a daily choice, but to live the life that you deserve to live, and the life that people are living with addiction, that's not the life that you deserve. That's not what you were born for. That's not what you were meant for. You were meant for greater things, such as this, Marcy. And I'm honored and grateful to have had you come on and share. And to everyone that is watching, listening, I see your comments. I thank you so much. Marcy, do you have a YouTube channel? People are asking.
I do. Wake Up with Marcy. Everything's Wake Up with Marcy, as far as my YouTube channel, my website. And Chaos to Clarity is my story, and it's seeing the signs and breaking the cycles. So I talk a lot about the spiritual signs that we receive from our angels and from those on the other side, and then breaking generational cycles. We are handed, these beliefs and values and this life we didn't ask for, right? So good or bad, we didn't have a choice. But today we have a choice. And if you are ready to break those generational cycles, I myself have done it, and I want to help you through that too.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yes,
Thank
you guys, and all of the links that are in there, and the links are in descriptions. Marcy, thank you again so much for joining me. I really appreciate you. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Marcy. You guys be blessed. And please check out those links, buy the books, reach out and help. Don't be ashamed. It is courageous to ask for help. It's courageous to be transparent and to seek the life that you deserve to live. So thank you so much. Until next time, I am Tish Ross. No Judgment Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. You guys have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez,